Смотрим.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sheldon Cooper, and welcome to the premiere episode of Sheldon Cooper Presents Fun with Flags.
Welcome to PBR's Fun with Flags.
Oh.
Welcome everyone to Powered and Protected by Rainbows. I am of course your host, Matt Haslam. And before we jump into our episode, first off, don't forget to like this video,
То
comment...
есть нам сейчас объяснят про флаги всех ЛГБТQ плюс движух, да? Окей.
down below your LGBTQ friendly thoughts and hit that rainbow subscribe button so you don't miss out on new episodes of season 3. Anyway, on to our episode. If you're going to a pride event, an LGBTQ neighborhood, or even just a walk around town, you might see tons of different pride flags this Pride Month. And while these pride flags are the community's way to show off who we are and who we love, they are also our way to celebrate our journey. So it's best to know what they all look like and at least a little about what they all mean, so you don't offend anyone. In a previous episode, we already covered some of these, but that was a year ago, and our fans took to the comment section to let us know all of the pride flags we missed. So this episode now includes all of them and more. We also already covered the gay flagging and handkerchief code, so after this episode is over, go check that out in the description of the video. But with 94 pride flags to cover, let's jump right into it. The original LGBTQ pride flag consisted of 8 colors. It was designed in 1978 by Gilbert Baker for the San Francisco Gay Freedom Day celebration as a symbol of hope and liberation. In 1979, the pink stripe was removed for a reported lack of fabric at the time, and soon after the light blue stripe was removed as well, to the current version representing 6 colors. These 6 colors represent life, healing, sunlight, nature, serenity, and spirit. This flag is the most common you'll see around the world, representing our community, and it represents all members of the LGBTQ+. All other pride flags to come in this episode represent groups of people in the LGBTQ. Second on our list is the Progress Pride flag, which represents our community's need for progress in our society. It includes the LGBTQ rainbow pride flag and parts of the transgender pride flag in the shape of a chevron, indicating both our need for more progress in
Так, а коричневый и черный это что?
gaining equality and representing the progress we have already made. Next, I want to go through the LGBTQ acronym itself. First up is the
Подожди, а коричневый и черный это разве не как бы в качестве солидарности с БЛМ было добавлено? Нет? Что-то непонятно.
lesbian pride flag, which represents a woman who is attracted to other women. Next is the gay pride flag. While many in our community use the 6-striped rainbow LGBTQ flag to describe gay people, the true gay men pride flag looks very different. This flag represents males who are attracted to other males. Now, I would like to also note that the standard 6-striped rainbow flag does represent all lesbian and gay people, but the lesbian and gay group flags are individually different. Next is the bisexual pride flag, which represents those
Выглядит, как будто Марк Ротко нарисовал.
who are romantically or sexually attracted to both men and women. They are not exclusively attracted to one particular gender or another. The transgender pride flag represents those who have a gender identity or gender expression that differ.
Ну, вот это после радужного флага, этот, короче, первый, который смог зафорситься. Потому что остальные, по-моему, никто, блядь, не знает.
First from their sex assigned at birth. A transgender male is someone who was born a female, but their gender identity or gender expression.
Архур, 100 рублей. Раскабаневший артификс жестко про ЛГБТ флаги. Чувак, по-моему, на артификсы ни разу не похож. Это даже приблизительно. Так.
Is that of a man. And similarly, a transgender female is someone who was born a male, and their gender identity or gender expression is that of a female. And for the record, rather than calling someone a transgender male or female, it is imperative you simply address them by their gender, instead of mentioning the transgender part first, because a trans male is just a man, and a trans female is just a woman. It's as simple as that. Next up is the queer pride flag, representing those who fall under the umbrella term queer. This term is used for sexual and gender minorities who are either not heterosexual or not cisgender. Next is the questioning pride flag, which represents those in the process of exploring or are concerned about applying a social label to their sexual orientation, sexual identity, gender, or all three. Finally, in the category of the acronym, the pansexual pride flag represents those who are sexually, romantically, or emotionally attracted towards people
To Polish people.
regardless of their sex or gender identity. Those who fly this pride flag may commonly refer to themselves as gender blind, meaning that gender and sex are not determining factors in their attraction to others. Next up is the category of sexualities, and first on our list in alphabetical order is the Achillean pride flag.
What?
This flag is used to represent a man or a masculine-aligned person who is attracted to other men or men-aligned people. Next is the agiosexual, who is attracted to other men or men-aligned people.
То есть гей, мужчина гей.
Is the Achillean pride flag. This flag is used to represent a man or a masculine-aligned person who is attracted to other men or men-aligned people.
So they're just gay. Я, кстати, могу даже объяснить генеалогию вот этого цветочка. Странно, что он справку не приводит историческую. Это зеленая гвоздика. Зеленая гвоздика в викторианской Англии была символом подпольных притонов для гомосексуалистов, мужчин-гомосексуалистов. То есть, как правило, на каких-нибудь подпольных или это гуакамоле, да, на каких-то подпольных или полуподпольных пабах, где заседали геи, ну или там кроссдрессеры какие-нибудь, они примерно вот в одних компаниях все были. Значит, там либо на вывеске была бы гвоздика зеленого цвета, либо зеленая гвоздика, как вот сам цветок где-нибудь был бы воткнут, вот, или ее искусственная версия. Окей, сдается мне, что, ну, типа, Achillean, это от Ахиллеса происходит, и сдается мне, что дело там не только в том, что, как бы, они, типа, просто male or male aligned, attracted to male or male aligned. Там, скорее всего, взрослый мужчина и юноша. Иначе непонятно, почему они Achillean. Это, видимо, отсылка на Ахиллеса и Патрокла. Просто он побоялся, видимо, полную версию рассказать. Сейчас я загуглю и проверю. Achillean sexuality. LGBTA wiki. Men loving men. Refers to a man or man-aligned individuals attracted to other men. One may or may not be attracted to other genders as well. This attraction does not need to be exclusive, as the label is used in a way to unify under an umbrella all men who love other men, including gay men, bisexual men, pansexual men, queer men, and other M-specific men, promoting solidarity among all those identities. Понятно. То есть Ахиллесова, короче, ахиллесовская ориентация, она включает в себя любую сексуальную ориентацию, в которой допустимо, да, для тебя, в принципе, по твоим предпочтениям, ебаться с другим мужиком. То есть ты можешь быть гей, бисексуал, там, пансексуал, еще что-то в этом роде. Значит, они все как бы вписываются в это общее понятие. Понятно, почему ахиллесовская, понятно, почему зеленая гвоздика. Идем дальше.
Next is the agiosexual pride flag.
Бля, ладно, я не буду гуглить справку на каждый пункт. Ну, нахуй.
And this flag is for those who feel a disconnection between oneself and a sexual target. This may involve fantasies in response to erotica, but lacking any desire to be a participant of the activity.
Блять, это флаг куколдов.
Combination of pride flags is the androphilia pride flag and the genephilia pride flag. Both of these terms, androphilia and genephilia, are used to identify a person's object of attraction without attributing a sex assignment or gender identity to the person. For those with the androphilia pride flag, it represents a sexual attraction to men or masculinity, whereas genephilia pride flags are used to represent a sexual attraction to women or femininity. Next up is the
Femininity. Okay.
aromantic pride flag, which represents those who experience little to no romantic attraction to others. Those who fly this pride flag are usually the opposite of alloromantic people, who have an emotional need to be in a romantic relationship. Aromantic people are often satisfied with friendships and other non-romantic relationships. They can still be sexually attracted to others and have sexual relationships, but the emotional side isn't typically present. Next is the asexual.
Айфи, 100 рублей. Надо бы такие видео Жмелевскому заказать, он во флагах разбирается хорошо. О, это за какой клуб, короче? Какой клуб болеешь, блядь?
Sexual pride flag, which represents those with a low or absent interest in.
Ну чё это, блядь? Чё у тебя на шарфике флаг-то? За какой клуб болеешь? Я за клуб 3-3 обезьяна, блядь. Идем дальше.
Or desire for sexual activity. They can still want a romantic and emotional relationship with others, and they can still want friendships, but the sexual and physical side to the relationship isn't present. Moving on now to the demi-romantic pride flag, and this flag denotes those who only experience a romantic attraction to someone after developing an emotional connection first. The term demi comes from the orientation being halfway between sexual and asexual. The counterpart to demi-romantic is called demisexual, and this pride flag represents those who do not experience sexual attraction to another person until an emotional connection with that person is already in place. Next is the...
Блять, ну вот, ебаные зумеры, я на вашем месте в детстве учил, блять, какой покемон относится к водным, блять, а какой к психическим. Как бы... Ладно.
The diamoric pride flag, which represents those who are attracted to non-binary members of the LGBTQ. Next up is the gray sexual pride flag, which represents those who experience limited sexual attraction to others. They experience sexual attraction on a rare basis or with low intensity. Next, the heteroflexible pride flag is for those whose sexual orientation is mostly heterosexual and straight. People who fly this flag characterize themselves as having minimal or situational homosexual activities or relationships in an otherwise straight lifestyle. Contrary to this is the homoflexible pride flag, which describes those whose sexual orientation is mostly homosexual and gay. These people characterize themselves as having minimal or situational heterosexual or straight activities or relationships in an otherwise gay lifestyle. Both of these could be characterized under bisexuality, but these pride flags are mostly to describe someone who leans more heavily towards one side of the sexuality spectrum. Moving on to the homoromantic pride flag, which is used to describe those who feel romantically attracted to a member of the same sex or gender.
Слушайте, а тут будет вот радужный флаг со звездой Давида в середине?
They seek romantic relationships with those of the same sex or gender for companionship, affection, and intimacy, but they are not necessarily sexually attracted to their romantic partners. Next up is the omni pride flag.
Это для саппортящих.
Which represents those who are attracted to persons of all genders and orientations. It is commonly used as a synonym for pansexuality. Next is the panromantic pride flag, and this flag represents those who are romantically attracted to people of all genders, but not necessarily attracted to them sexually. And now we move on to the polysexual pride flag, which represents those who are like pansexual in many ways, in that they are attracted to most people regardless of gender or sexuality, but instead are not attracted to one specific gender or sexuality. In other words,
Ого, нихуя себе.
they can be attracted to anyone but one specific group of people, and that one specific group can vary depending on the polysexual person. Next up is the pomoromantic pride flag, which represents those who deny or do not fit into any labels for a particular kind of attraction. They may or may not feel sexual attraction, but they are not interested in specifying whether they feel it and to whom. So if you see this pride flag, don't ask them, because
Бля, а когда Украина будет? Я что-то не узнаю, блядь, ни одного футбольного клуба.
they more than likely aren't interested in telling random strangers about their sexual preference. Next is the sapphic pride flag, and this flag represents women who are sexually or romantically attracted to other women.
Но Сафик — это от имени поэтессы Сафо происходит.
This applies to both lesbians and bisexual women. Next,
Ну, то есть, иными словами, это женская версия вот этих вот ахиллесовцев.
we'll talk about gender pride flags. And first in that category is the agender pride flag, which is flown by those who identify as genderless. They are quite literally people who reject the idea of having a gender. Moving on to the androgynous pride flag, which represents those who are a mix of both female and male. Androgynous people don't necessarily feel exactly equally male and female, seeing that they can be slightly more masculine or feminine, but their gender is somewhere in the gray area between the two genders, as their flag depicts.
Блять, мне что-то вспомнились эти полисексуалы, да. Я себе представляю себе у чувака флаг полисексуалов, короче. Вы там просто в чате написали про «ты не ебешь собак». У вас флаг полисексуалов. Какая из ориентаций и сексуальности вас не привлекает? Я, блядь, не ебу собак.
Next up is the alexigender pride flag.
Алексей второй. Чё, блядь?
Which represents those whose gender identity is fluid between more than one gender.
Алекса, поставь Gangsta's Paradise, блядь.
But the individual cannot tell what those genders are. Next is the bigender pride flag, which describes someone with two genders. People who fly this flag have exactly two gender identities, either simultaneously or varying between the
Ну все, бан на Твиче сразу за этот флаг.
two. These could be male and female or could be non-binary, which we will cover in a moment. Next on our list is the demigender pride flag, which describes those who define their gender under the umbrella term demi, meaning half. It is a non-binary gender identity, which has a partial connection to a certain gender. Under the demigender, someone could identify themselves as a demi-boy, which have their own pride flag. This is someone who identifies themselves as non-binary, but has a partial connection to the masculine gender. There is also a demi-girl, which is someone who identifies themselves as non-binary, but has a partial connection
Демигой, блядь.
to the feminine gender. And finally, there is demi-flux, which represents someone whose gender identity is at least partially fluid. And
Это чувак, который за элементалей катает, блядь, в третьих героях. Это очень экзотическая сексуальная ориентация, на самом деле.
other parts of their gender remain static. Moving on to the gender fluid pride flag, which represents those whose gender is on a spectrum of gender identities and will change over time. These gender identities are not exclusively masculine or feminine, but are sometimes outside the gender binary. A gender-fluid person's identity will change constantly, so it is best to ask what pronouns to use.
Вив, 700 рублей. Требую разбор русского рэпа по 4-й. Ссылка. Внесено, благодарю.
To address them in that moment. Next up is the gender queer pride flag, and those who fly this flag are people who do not subscribe to conventional gender distinctions, but identify with
Выглядит как какая-то гей-Ирландия.
either, both, or a
Ну, то есть Ирландия.
combination of male and female genders. Next is the gender questioning pride flag, which describes
А
someone
почему тут нету огромного знака вопроса, блядь, как в прошлый раз?
who is questioning whether they are really cisgender or may identify as a different gender or non-binary. Next up is the intersex pride flag, representing those who,
That's new.
for one or more of a variety of reasons, are born with a reproductive or sexual anatomy that doesn't seem to match the typical definitions of female or male. For example, a person might appear female on the outside, but have mostly male typical anatomy on the inside.
Тебе нельзя. 100 рублей. Марго, а бывают какие-нибудь нордик гетеросексуалы, мужчины, которые предпочитают белых женщин со светлыми глазами, и наоборот, женщины, которые вступают в отношения только с белыми мужчинами? И как разрешить парадокс с точки зрения повесточки? Вроде это гендер, а вроде и расизм. Решается очень просто. Белым нельзя, потому что стрелочка не поворачивается. Как бы и все. Черным, кстати, можно.
Moving on to the Libra Fluid Pride flag, which represents those whose gender identity is mostly agender, but has a strong connection that fluctuates between other genders. It is a similar definition to gender fluid, but with the aspect that it is mostly agender. Next on our list is the Maverick Pride flag.
Хороший фильм.
And this flag is flown by those who have a gender and feel they have a gender, but it is completely separate from male or female gender identities. Next is the New Choice Pride flag, which
Это, по-моему, имя одного из доминаторов во вторых космических рейнджерах, блядь, от которого наебать можно, чтобы он сам взорвался.
represents a person with a non-binary gender identity, which is often associated with a neutral or null gender. We've spoken a lot about non-binary gender identity, but they have their own pride flag too. Those who fly this flag identify their gender as one which does not fit into the male and female binary spectrum. Typically, they prefer to be addressed as they or them instead of he or she, but it is always best to ask. One of the major misconceptions is that you'll offend someone by asking them which pronouns they prefer to be called, and that's simply not true. In the LGBTQ community, it is always better to ask rather than assume and get it wrong. Next up is the pan-gender pride flag, which represents those who typically embrace all genders, or a large number of genders. They may be gender fluid as well, in which case they are fluid between many genders over a period of time. Next is the polygender pride flag, and those who fly this flag describe their gender as literally many genders. They embrace multiple gender identities, either simultaneously or varying between them. Last but not least in the gender category is the trigender pride flag, which represents those whose gender can literally be translated to 3 genders or triple gender. They experience exactly 3 gender identities, either simultaneously or varying between them.
Отец, Сын и Святой Дух.
And now we move on to the combination pride flags. But because we already covered what each of these terms mean, you can easily figure out what the pride flag represents by referring back to the individual definitions of the pride flags we mentioned before.
В чате картинка очень смешная, блядь.
These combination pride flags include asexual biromantic pride flag. the asexual panromantic pride flag, the bigender pansexual pride flag, the biromantic demisexual pride flag, the biromantic homosexual pride flag, the bisexual bigender pride flag, the bisexual panromantic pride flag, the demisexual gay pride flag, the demisexual pansexual pride flag, demisexual panromantic pride flag, demi-bisexual pride flag, gender-fluid abrosexual pride flag, which represents those who are gender-fluid and abrosexual, meaning their sexuality is fluid. Gender-fluid gay pride flag, gray agender pride flag, gray pansexual pride flag, non-binary bisexual pride flag, pansexual demi-romantic pride flag, and finally the pink triangle pride flag.
Я прекрасно помню только одно место в истории, где этот флаг гордости был очень популярен, блядь. И, сдается мне, вам бы там не понравилось. Я даже не знаю, как вам это сказать. Это какое поколение уже пошло, я только в детстве смотрел, да.
Which represents homosexuality. The downward-facing pink triangle dates back to the first concentration camp.
Окей, он сам решил об этом рассказать, хорошо.
In Nazi Germany.
Но это не first concentration camp, первые концентрационные лагеря англичане строили в Южной Африке. Причем не для местного населения, а для буров.
It was a symbol of discrimination Nazis used to use to mark homosexuals. But the LGBTQ community has since reappropriated the pink triangle and now proudly use it as a symbol of identity to show that we will overcome persecution. Next on our list are the LGBTQ tribe pride flags. Now, before we start talking about the flags, it is important to note that just because someone's body type, personality, or physical look would fit into one of these categories doesn't mean they are a member of that tribe. Members of these tribes typically identify themselves as members, and it's up to them whether or not they want to be categorized by such tribe. Anyway, the first of them we'll talk about today is the bear tribe. This tribe is a part of the gay and bi subculture, and members of this tribe are typically large build, ruggedly masculine, and hairy guys. Moving on to the otter tribe, and this tribe pride flag represents those who are lean and hairy. The best way to describe otters and bears is to think of the actual animal characteristics. In a total coincidence, which was not planned at all, the 69th pride flag on our list is the pup pride flag. For those of us who are pup tribe members, we are defined as a gay adolescent or a young man, with many attributes closely associated with a young canine. Those attributes include playing cute, being inexperienced, naive, bright-eyed, eager, and highly energetic. We put a ton of love into the world and expect a lot of love in return. Real canines like kissing with their tongue, licking, and cuddling a lot, just like those of us in the pup tribe. So if you like cuddling and like French, my advice is to date a puppy. Oh no, how did my phone number get on the screen? But the pup tribe can include men of all body types and ages. And if you're a pup tribe member yourself, check out our song Lost Dog and the links below to get some awesome tribe merchandise in our store, such as these two amazing shirts that we put out last year. Next up is the Twinks pride flag. The name Twink derives its name from the baked good called Twinkies, which used to be manufactured by the Hostess company and is now being manufactured by two other companies who bought the brand. But that's not entirely important unless you're hungry for a snack. If you've never had one, a Twinkie is a light, airy snack on the outside and has a white, cream-like filling on the inside. But the Twink tribe in the gay and bisexual community is made up of usually teenage and 20-something-year-old guys who are slim and without much facial or body hair. While many twinks are very smart, the tribe itself is termed as the exact opposite, hence their association with a light and airy exterior. But twinks are coined as only being good for one thing, and that one thing is having a white, cream-like filling. Anyway, moving on. Next up is the black gay
Subtle.
pride flag, which originated in Philadelphia, PA, and represents members of the LGBTQ who are of African and/or Latino origin. This flag is more commonly known as the People of Color pride flag. Next is the Fat Tribe pride flag. This tribe name isn't meant at all to be derogatory. In fact, the members of this tribe are very proud of their weight. And to be honest, it's great to see a tribe for this, because it means LGBTQ members can be comfortable in their own body, and not be self-conscious, as statistically, sometimes our community makes overweight members feel. Moving on now to the Geek Tribe pride flag, which represents those in the gay community who have a deep and enthusiastic knowledge of one or more hobbies, sports, activities, professional fields, or intellectual pursuits. So it doesn't just mean gay men who are tech savvy, but means a lot more. Next is the Fruity Autistic pride flag.
А есть 1992 Space Movie Pride Flag. А есть GNAA Pride Flag, блядь. Ну, потому что почему бы и нет.
Which is flown by members of the LGBTQ community who are autistic. Next up is the Pause pride flag.
Поз означает позитив, если что. Эй, Тоха, блядь! Ау! И тут ты! Я думал, бузы. Да, вот бы ты удивился. Это флаг гордости для тех, у кого спит, если вы не поняли.
Flag, spelled P-O-Z. And this flag represents members of the LGBTQ community who are positive for HIV.
Вы думали, я пошутил, да? А если вы когда-нибудь видите человека с татуировкой Biohazard, на всякий случай, ну вы поняли.
But seriously, if you see this pride flag, don't be afraid to walk up and make a new friend at a pride event. You cannot get HIV by talking to someone. And some members of the HIV community have HIV as U equals U, which means they live with such small quantities that they can't pass it on, although some still can through sexual intercourse. But don't be too shy to make a new friend. Next.
Обязательно. На всякий случай начинайте рыгать, как Глад Валакас, и говорить, что вы идете в монастырь. Да.
Next up is the Military Tribe pride flag, which represents LGBTQ members who have served or are currently serving in the armed forces. So if you like someone in uniform, maybe look for these flags at your next Pride event. Next is the lipstick lesbian pride flag, which is flown by members of the lesbian community who have a more feminine gender expression. Typically, these tribe members like wearing makeup, doing their hair up nice, and are very effeminate. Opposite to this is the butch lesbian pride flag, which represents lesbians with a more masculine or dominant personality, style, and identities. Now moving on to the communities in the LGBTQ, and first in that category is the drag.
Вот я бы тебе снизил, конечно, отметку, потому что masculine и dominant это далеко не одно и то же. И это, в общем-то, не пересекающиеся две вещи. То есть они независимые друг от друга по современной матчасти. Вот, так что не надо хуи нести.
Pride flag. And, well, they actually have two pride flags, which represent their community. The term drag refers to the performance of masculinity, femininity, or other forms of gender expression. And before going to your first ever Pride event, I highly suggest looking up pictures of drag queens and kings to know what to expect, so you're not surprised to see some drag performers there in person.
Да, охуенно, только проблема в том, что ты как бы не можешь не увидеть людей в дрэге. Ты приходишь, то есть я, например, подписан на Инстаграм компании Shudder, это, если что, Netflix для фильмов ужасов, и они каждый день постят соревнования дрэг-квин, где мужики наряжаются в Эльвиру, повелительницу тьмы. Ты, блядь, пришел ребенка забирать из яслей, там дрэг-квин Story Hour, там дрэг-квин приходит читать сказки. Ты, блядь, приходишь на ралли Дональда, ебать его в сраку Трампа, там, блядь, Леди Мага, нахуй. Охуенно. Архур, 100 рублей. Слушай, этот чел только что сказал, что на флаге изображены цвета, символизирующие африканцев и латиноамериканцев. Скажи, какое в Америке количество борцунов за свои права среди латиносов? Да дохуя. А тебя это удивило, что ли? Дохуя, конечно.
Next up is the lesbian Labrys pride flag, which represents lesbians who consider themselves to be feminist. Next is the South African gay pride flag, which represents the gay community of South Africa. It is a pride flag meant to showcase the freedom and diversity of the South African nation. Moving on to the leather pride flag, which represents the leather subculture in the LGBTQ community. This flag is flown by those who like to wear and show off their body in leather. Next is the fetish pride flag, and this flag represents the community
Это символ Брейниака из Супермена, блядь, не пизди.
Who like to play a little dirtier than the rest of the world does. Unless you're a vanilla person, this flag is for anyone with any fetishes at all. Next up is the rubber pride flag, which is for members of the LGBTQ who love to wear or love to look at others wearing full rubber outfits. And now on to the BDSM rights pride flag.
По-моему, это флаг Тайваня или Гонконга или что-то в этом роде.
Which represents those who believe that LGBTQ members who like BDSM deserve the same human rights as everyone else and should not be discriminated against for pursuing BDSM relationships. Next on our list is the master-slave pride flag, which represents those who like to have a power dynamic in their relationships. The vertical line on the flag represents the power and dominance, while the three parallel lines represent submission. Next is the ownership pride flag, which is flown by someone who wants to be a master in a master-slave relationship. The shield represents the owner or someone looking to become an owner. Next up is the furry pride flag, which represents a subculture of straight and LGBTQ people in the furry fandom. Being a furry means you are interested in animal characters with human personalities and characteristics. Finally in the communities is the Vor pride flag. This is one I have to remind you that someone requested we cover it before I give you the definition. But with that in mind, this is a flag representing straight and LGBTQ people equally, who have the rare fetish to imagine being swallowed. Moving on to the relationship category, we move on to the polyamory pride flag, which represents those who wish to have an intimate relationship with more than one partner at a time, with informed consent of all partners involved. Finally on our list is the other pride flags, which you should definitely know about, but don't fit into any previous category on their own. The first of these is the gay pride wedding flag, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a flag to represent those who are about to be married.
А тут будет флаг Южного парка.
Or they are married already. Their flag is like a party of rainbows, to symbolize they found their perfect partner, and they're so excited that they just can't hide it. They're about to lose control, and I think they like it. Now you've heard about 93 pride flags so far, and yet I know some straight person is out there wondering when your time to shine will be. Maybe you feel discriminated against because you haven't heard about a flag for yourself yet. Gee, as a gay person, I wonder how it must feel like to be discriminated against. But this flag is the only homophobic flag on our entire list. It is called the straight pride flag, but before you go waving this one around town, you should know it was designed and is used exclusively by homophobic people who hate the LGBTQ community. So
Ну все.
it is the only one on our entire list which you should never fly. But if you see this flag,
Гомофобия, да блядь.
you should run away. But in case you're straight and want to still show
Run away. Run away.
how much you love and support the LGBTQ community this Pride Month, you should fly this one instead. It's called the Ally Pride Flag. This flag represents those who support equal civil rights,
Да, United Artists. Жалко, закрылась студия.
gender equality, LGBTQ rights, and more. But it's a flag for those who just happen to be straight and cisgender. So even if you're straight or cisgender, you can still fly a flag to show LGBTQ kids and adults in your area how much they are loved and supported. Anyway, that's all for our episode today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this episode and want to support more content like this in the future, please consider pledging to our Patreon page, where you can get a ton of benefits. Just go to patreon.com/MHPTV or click the link in the description. Don't forget to like this video, share your LGBTQ friendly thoughts in the comments, hit that rainbow subscribe button so you don't miss out on new episodes of our show, because we have a lot planned for Pride Month here, and share this video with others. I'm your host, Matt Haslam. This has been PBR. Have a gay day, everyone, and bye for now. Watch Powered by Rainbows Season 3, only on MHPTV.
Так, досмотрели.
Деньги мне плати, деньги мне плати, деньги мне плати, мне деньги, деньги мне плати, деньги мне плати, деньги мне плати, мне деньги.
А сейчас танцуем.
А сейчас танцуем. А сейчас мне плати, деньги мне плати, мне деньги.